This is an unusual day for the village of Noyelles-sur-Mer in northern France. A bus of Chinese visitors has arrived from Paris. Even Chinese soldiers from the French Foreign Legion have come. Their destination is a small cemetery on the outskirts of the village, the final resting place of 838 Chinese who died here during World War I. It's a Chinese custom to remember the dead on the first weekend in April, even though none of the visitors is a relative of any of the dead here.
This is the Qingming Festival, an important Chinese tradition. It's the day when we go to the cemetery and clean the graves. Normally, the children of the deceased do this, but these people had no children, so we do it. That's our tradition.
The dead here weren't soldiers, but laborers. During World War I, the British brought about 140,000 Chinese to France to keep the war machine operating. For many, it was a journey of no return.
Our countrymen here supported the French and English in World War I. We are here to remember and mourn them.
Tens of thousands of Chinese workers came in trains like this from the port town of Le Havre. They worked in munitions factories, shipyards, and even as farmers in the fields. Dominique Delanois is a journalist for local news. He's been tracing this story for 25 years. Few people had ever heard about the fate of the Chinese laborers in this remote part of France.
They were told this was a kind of volunteer service abroad. I don't think they imagined that it would be like it was. Hard work, unfamiliar surroundings, the climate, all of it together. I think they were startled by what awaited them.
There was a Chinese camp on these fields next to the village of Noyelles-sur-Mer. Witnesses who have since died told Dominique Delanois that the British soldiers treated the Chinese like forced laborers. They worked 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and received starvation wages. If they broke a rule, they were severely punished.
Below our feet lies a lot of misery. This is where the Chinese lived. You have to imagine it. During the day, they suffered from the heaviest labor, and in the evening they returned here exhausted, where it wasn't much better. The camp was locked up. There was a sick bay and even a mental hospital for those who couldn't take it anymore. So far from home and cut off from their families. Many went crazy. From here, the workers marched every day to the Noyelles train station to work.
Noyelles-sur-Mer is located between Le Havre, a strategic port in World War I, and the nearby front. The rail lines here were essential supply lines for the Allied forces.
The Chinese worked here. They had to repair the rails, which were regularly damaged by bombs. Just imagine, they had to carry the rails here and lay them. The same with the ties and gravel. It was all extremely heavy. And the Chinese tended to be short and delicate. And they had this journey full of hardships behind them. It was an incredible drudgery.
Danielle Delanois isn't the only person interested in this story. Li Qiang is here at the cemetery for the first time. The inscriptions on the gravestones reveal that many of these dead come from his home city in China. Now, Li wants to send their names to the archives at home in the hope of finding some descendants.
I think this is important. If they were my ancestors, I would want to know what happened to them here in France, how they experienced the war, and how they died.
Even after 100 years, the Chinese in France want to preserve the memory of the fate of their countrymen, so they'll be back next year to observe the Qingming festival among the graves in Noyelles-sur-Mer.